Hey there, folks, and welcome to another episode of Trek Tonight. I, of course, am here with my usual crew, Leo Janicek and Joe Townsell. How are you guys?
Walking and talking.
Yeah. How you doing, Joe?
Well, I'm doing as well as could be expected. I just had a couple things to say briefly. I so much appreciate. I did, of course, catch the show after the fact last week. I appreciate your understanding of my special circumstances.
Right.
Very kind words, Chris. I do appreciate that. Again, also want to thank Leo and Keith, especially his moniker for the week. We love Joe Townsell. I thought that was really special. I like that a lot. And this week, some of you may notice I have a change of locale, and just want to let you know that I'm on special assignment on the California class USS Fresno. Reporting from my second hometown city, and glad to be here with you guys and to talk about the season ender of Star Trek Prodigy.
Yeah, good end, I thought. Do we have anything else before we want to jump right in?
I'm trying to think.
Anything going on?
Walter Koenig's wife passed away very recently.
I did see that. Yeah.
So our sympathies out to him and his family and his loved ones. It's as we all know from personal experience, it's a rough situation.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a badge. I don't know what this is from.
Is it sort of circular in the back?
It's an oval with the line going through it. I don't know.
I think it's from one of those TNG sort of like either alternate timelines or, fantasy. It's either from one where Worf keeps like splitting out, like jumping from reality to reality when he got caught in this sort of temporal anomaly. Or it could be the one where Riker wakes up and he has a son, and he's married. But it's really an alien who's.
Yeah, I just found it in my collection, and I thought
it looks a little bit like the Discovery variation because they have like the vertical line running through the Delta, but there's nothing behind it though. So maybe it's a combination of all the best designs.
Yeah, they do it. They do a lot of. There's a lot of. That's one of the signature things they do when they want to show sort of, it's like it's a little bit in the future or it's an alternate timeline. They do something with the badge and maybe alter the uniform slightly.
Right.
Um,
All right. Let's see here. Keith, watching us on Twitch, jumps in and
Keith.
says hi. Says Joe.
What a great guy. Thanks again, Keith.
Yeah, and then he comments that it might be a holodeck episode on Fresno.
Oh, well, hopefully then the holodeck they have better lighting, but that's my fault because I kind of put it together at the last minute. But hey, like I said before the show, I'm visible. I can be heard. What more can you ask for?
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, we have, let's see who's in here. Scott Taylor gave us a thumbs up. Thank you, Scott, for jumping in and watching us. I also noticed that Scott, I think, commented on some things on the Facebook page this week. So,
very cool.
And let's see who else. And Craig Lubin.
Craig Lubin
also gave us a thumbs up. Now, I'm not sure why is he saying this. What more can I ask for? How about the winning lottery numbers?
Well, I just said, what more can I ask for? So I guess.
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, that would be.
Yeah, Craig isn't satisfied with my visage and my what I have to say. He wants lottery numbers too.
I was very disappointed that I didn't win the $2 billion Powerball.
Yes, we all threw our hat in the ring for that one.
Yeah, I was very.
I've always continued to be so disappointed. You think that by now I would have beaten the odds of not winning the lottery, but I guess you have to actually buy tickets to win, huh?
Yeah, I had a brother-in-law. First step. Yeah, I had a brother-in-law who used to refer to the lottery as voluntary taxes.
Sort of is,
which I thought was great. Yeah. Anywho, really nice solution to the end of the season.
I would agree. Yes,
and we did not. I'm sure that Keith is mopping his brow with relief that we didn't have a time travel episode.
We did not, but I think they have set up for maybe some temporal shenanigans next season.
Oh yes. Yes, the lottery is a tax on those who can't do math. Well, because we have that wormhole now that got I had a few moments in the thing, and I'm just sort of in general that sort of got me a little choked up. I thought it was really nicely done. Let's leap right in. And what were some of the highlights, guys, for you on this episode?
You were sort of talking about stuff when you're getting choked up. Janeway's speech, the message she left the kids. But there's spoilers, for this episode in case you somehow are watching this and not watching Prodigy at the same time for whatever reason. Is the moment when she realizes she can't fit herself on an isolinear chip because she's too complex, she's too sophisticated, and she has. It was very nice because she doesn't say it. You can just sort of. Well, there's a little readout, but she doesn't. It's that kind of moment where she takes it in non-verbally,
right?
Which is an odd sort of acting kudos because it's more kudos to the animators, I think, with all due respect to Kate Mulgrew, but it was that kind of like, oh, she's doing that. Of course, she sends them off. Hello, Janeway's speech got me crying. Then I almost didn't stop for the rest of the episode. Yeah, there was it was a real choke up thing, but also my other highlight is the fact that they didn't leave the fate of these kids like as a cliffhanger.
Right. Yeah, I was glad about that too. Craig points out one thing that I had on my list, and that is Jenkem. He's not just an engineer; he's a miracle worker.
Yes,
and I loved that reference. I thought that was fantastic to Mr. Scott. And that was on my list, Craig, of things I was going to bring up. So that's great. You and I are on the same page. It was. There was a few moments in it that I thought were great, and I like that they even though they separated, and I'm sure we're going to see more of her in next season, but they sort of got Gwen and Dahl. Thank you. I always remember his name, and I didn't right now. They got them sort of together a little bit, which is cool.
There was definitely as far as the Hollow Janeway, lots of good Star Trek tropes here. We, the spirit of sacrifice, of camaraderie and fellowship, and for me, in addition to that, I loved the the reminiscence of like Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
Landing in San Francisco Bay, having a little hearing, hey, everything's cool, we're gonna do this now. Just nice tribute, but still fit well within the storyline here. And I was glad when it was a 2-part season ender. I did watch both to catch up. I didn't do my homework last week, as you know, but I'm up to speed now.
Right.
And I'm glad it was a 2-part episode because again, it told me we're not going to be left with some irritating cliffhanger, other than just what comes next, because there's a new adventure awaits with the new protostar.
Oh yeah.
I will say, well, okay, I'll leave this for my quibbles. Any quibbles I have are entirely minor, but I did enjoy it. I'm glad that they finally got to Starfleet and we got to see Janeway defend Dahl and the rest of them.
Yes,
because they, the Starfleet Tribunal, with a Vulcan, Andorian, and Tellarite, which was very cool because 3 of the 4 founders there.
Yeah.
It felt very Starfleet. And when she said that, because Dahl has he's a mix of all these different species, including many Federation. Yes. And what is a better representation of the Federation than combining the best of all these.
I thought that was a great solution to the augment problem for him. I thought that was very cool.
Well, an overall great justification and explanation, across the board. I mean, maybe that was the beginning of a historical turning point in their attitude toward augments.
Yeah,
right?
Let's hope so.
Craig says our old Star Trek games always ended in a trial. It was nice to see that tradition continue.
Yes,
that is true. We spent more time when we played Star Trek back in college. We spent more time under tribunals and
court martials and
martial trials and everything else. Yeah. Keith really liked Janeway's speech in the tribunal.
Yeah,
which I thought was great. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you guys haven't touched on that I thought was particularly cool. I think it's neat that they decided to go ahead and approve the Protostar, but I also think it's very cool that she's taking them all under her wing, and they're going to have their own ship and go out and try to find Chakotay and then other things. So I think that's pretty cool.
It is. And they're the warrant officer, which is actually something I looked up a while back, and it's it's a weird thing because you're not quite an officer, but you're above a non-com.
Right.
It's this very sort of odd sort of zone of rank. And we have them in the U.S. military, warrant officers, and their degrees of them,
Right.
But I thought it was an elegant solution to, the idea that they would just show up and be, given slot, even with the recommendation of a Vice Admiral Janeway, there are other people who had applied and been working towards it. Sure. So
yeah, and I thought that made sense. That was pretty cool. Keith will comment later on the tribunal. The tribunal bugged him for a minute, but he'll comment on that later.
Also,
he's hoping that they will name the new Protostar the Prodigy. Well, I don't know about that, but
I don't know. It could be.
Maybe. Yeah.
There was, if you noticed, and I don't know, there was an Enterprisian from from what may be my favorite episode of this season. So as one of the officers, I think it was either one of the science officers with Rock Talk in the background, or it was one of the engineers with Jenk and Pog.
Right.
And also, this is something the science officer who speaks to Rock Talk and suggests that she might do well with xenobiology.
Right.
That woman to the voice is actually a scientific consultant for Star Trek.
Oh, how cool!
Yeah.
And if it's the same woman, she I've heard her on podcasts. Because they try to be as, they obviously the science of Star Trek is a little. Some of it is solid and some of it not so much. You but she's there to sort of try to make sense of it. So that was kind of a neat little tip of the hat. I'm not sure how that Enterprisian ended up at Starfleet, but
that's a Genesec gem.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to go so far as to call these Townsville tidbits, but because I only know them because I saw screenshots from other sources. But it was nice to see some of our familiar, best loved Starship classes. I think we saw the Defiant class in there a couple times.
Right.
And I did see a screenshot from somebody that identified the Sovereign class as having the NCC 1701E registry number.
Yeah.
Wow. Very nice.
So, yeah. Picard's Enterprise was in there somehow. It was a little beat up.
Right.
Just kind of, but, that was definitely the registry number.
Yes.
Craig Lubin says, when Dal asks if the new Protostar class ship was theirs, Janeway responds, "Oh, I have much bigger plans for us."
Oh, that's your season 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
My speculation is maybe a new Voyager.
Yeah, could be.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, It is curious.
You have a while to figure that out. So
yeah.
It's we don't know yet, but it's I think it's going to be a ship we've seen. I think it's likely a ship we've seen before, a class we've seen before, maybe a little souped up.
I would think so. Yeah.
So, but it was also interesting, just as a little note, that Gwen's the sort of on her shoulder pads of her was sort of a uniform, was sort of a Starfleet uniform, but not quite.
Right.
Sort of was her legacy, not the heirloom.
Yeah.
Her heirloom weapon sort of became like shoulder pads.
Right.
Or decoration on her shoulder.
Well, am I wrong, or because you didn't see a lot of it? The 3/4 shot was very short, and then it was mostly close up between her and Dahl. But did she have a badge on?
Yeah, she did. I think she had a comm badge.
Yeah.
Presumably she's going on a Federation ship, so I'm not sure. It'll be interesting because her father is, although a much younger man, still alive at this point.
Right.
Although, well, they do occasionally issue comm badges to civilians for various purposes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily designating a rank or whatever, but just so
right.
And I do like the fact that, not that they sent her off because it's sad. We don't want to see that, but in terms of a little bit of realism, I think you have all 6, in that kind of compact little scenario would have been a little bit much. And there was a couple, as far as quibbles, there was, I think. The one quibble I had was like, it serves the plot well, but it was a little convenient that the explosion opened up the rift to find the way to Chakotay. Nice coincidence there, but hey, I'll live with it.
I also I had a quibble. Now it seemed to be before with the weapon it was more like a virus that was infecting the Federation ships or the Starfleet ships. But I guess it was more like it was broadcasting that signal, because once they got it away, they destroyed the protostar was destroyed. The influence was nullified.
Yeah, see, that was not really clear to me either, and that would have been my only quibble, because I thought it was a virus too, and that once it got sent, it was just going to keep. It gets downloaded into everybody, and then
it felt like more like a virus than like a broadcast. But again, that's sort of equivalent. But I like the idea that they were willing to destroy the ship, and Dahl was willing to go down with the ship as the captain, because he was probably thinking, well, I'm not going to go to Starfleet, but I want to make sure everybody else, gets out okay.
Right.
So another. Stand-up moment for Dahl, like a real character progression.
Yeah, he has definitely evolved. Now, Keith is saying there never should have been a tribunal because the kids didn't steal the protostar.
Yeah, they didn't really, did they?
No.
I mean, they stole it from the diviner.
They stole it from the diviner, who stole it from Starfleet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is quite true.
That's another one minor quibble. Is I would have liked to see Jellicoe on that tribunal.
Oh yeah.
Well, that would have fit, especially if you bring him in, see it through. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just this sort of hard ass that will be sitting on
exactly,
judgment above everybody else.
Keith follows up with, I can get why the kids might think that, but the adults should recognize that they recovered the protostar.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there, Keith. I think that's true. But all in all, I thought it was a nice wrap up to the season. And it was nice that it didn't leave us with a whole bunch of real cliffhangers, except that we're all curious now to see what the show is going to be.
Well, it reminded me a bit in terms of what was left and of the Strange New Worlds season ender. Number one's fate is a little uncertain. It was more dire than this one, but just enough to leave us wanting more. What are appetites for season 2?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll be there.
Oh yeah. I will too. And that is something I'm going to take the issues banner down, because that was something that I was left at the end after I saw it, really being thrilled with the fact that the show really won me over, and that it became a program that I would watch just as much as any other Trek on Paramount right now.
Yeah.
So it went from, for me, went from being really a kid's show to something that I really enjoyed. So was really thrilled with the end of it.
Well, I'll draw a comparison, fair or otherwise.
Mm.
You know, I'm a Walking Dead fan, as you may know.
Right.
But there are aspects of The Walking Dead as a franchise that I'm not behind.
Okay.
But I felt like I had to keep up with it just to keep up with the overall narrative and continuity.
Right.
And that's true with Star Trek, especially current Trek. But like you, Chris, I don't feel the need, like I have to. Like I'm forcing myself to sit through this just so I don't get lost.
Right. Right.
You know,
right.
It's enjoyable on its own terms. It's its own quality program. And I never would have guessed that I would have embraced it as I have. I mean, there are aspects of it that I think, okay, that's for the kids,
right?
But that's it's fine. You know, great. If it is to be considered family entertainment, good family entertainment appeals to a universal audience,
right?
Yeah,
right.
I would agree. I think they,
and
it's really the first half of the season, and I think I may have said this before. But it's like a lot of it was setting up. I mean, they were exciting adventures and so on, but there was. It took by the end of the first 10 episodes where they started embracing sort of a Starfleet outlook.
Sure.
You know, and the second half of the season was like they were getting to see the larger world. Keith says, I had the exact same journey, Chris. Yeah. I would say that the second half built on what the first half put out. Like first half was about establishing the characters and the relationships and their growing sort of interest in being actual Starfleet officers. And then the second season was like them coping with this sudden, problem where they couldn't just go to another ship and say, hey. Although I will say, going back to issues slightly, is like, since they were able to create that shuttle, although it was a bit bare bones,
right?
They could have created a proper shuttle, like, and then stowed the protostar, and then gone and find somebody from Starfleet and tell them what happened. Because I was under the impression that anything created by the protostar was compromised.
Except that once the protostar blows up, the device is dead.
Yeah. So some of that was unclear. And it's possible it's unclear because they didn't understand it. And therefore, us as the audience didn't understand it as well.
Right.
But I'm going to guess that everybody over in the writer's room did know what it was going to be.
Sure.
Well, another thing I can say for Prodigy, I mean, from our 80s and 90s and early 2000s Star Trek, each one had its own sub-concept. I mean, Next Generation, of course, just brought back episodic adventures that gradually delved into longer story arcs. Deep Space Nine, that was obvious. Space Station.
Right.
Voyager was lost, etc. But this one, as far as the current Trek, to me, really stands out as far as having a really well-realized, what I call sub-concept. I mean, totally alien kids from a different part of the galaxy. I mean, what would we do as grown men stepping onto a battleship, no matter how brilliant we are?
Right.
And it was just a totally unique take on the Trek universe. And
sure,
it's really paid off well in this first season.
Right. Of course, it did help to have a hologram to advise them.
Yeah,
that helped too.
If we got thrown onto a battleship, we wouldn't have a hologram to advise them.
Yeah, we'd have that. We did that for to our credit.
Yeah.
Listen, if I had to drive a car, I'd be screwed.
Yeah. Well, so
I grew up in the city. I don't know how to drive a car. I've never driven a car.
I remember driving with you, trying to learn to drive a car.
I went about 15 feet, and you guys were like, "Nope." Yeah. But a starship might be a bit more challenging, although I feel like the starship controls perhaps are more intuitive.
Probably.
Less trees in space.
When Kirk and Beverly, Picard and Beverly were in the Remember Me shrinking universe, somehow in about 80 years, we went from you got to have a whole crew to why can't we just operate this thing all by ourselves? Just the two of us.
Right.
So there was that awkward pause.
Yeah, there it is.
It's all right. Leo, it's a reflective pause.
It is. Yes. I'm trying to think here. We might get out of here early because we usually have some damn rabbit hole we go down, and we didn't do that tonight. We were very
well. I think it's also it kind of kept something on track, maybe.
Right.
Maybe, but I will also say it's interesting because we didn't. I'm both glad and not glad that we didn't see how they got to Earth, because it felt like they didn't know how to navigate. I mean, presumably the shuttle had some, navigation equipment, even if it was sort of.
Well, she says it's limited.
It's limited. So
that's what she says. I think that's the actual quote that she said. Limited navigation.
They got to Earth. I'm glad that we didn't have to, sit through a whole episode of them lost and
right,
dealing with more trials. Presumably it was a bit of an adventure to get to Earth,
right,
because they didn't land the shuttle. They crashed it in San Francisco Bay,
right,
as Joe pointed out, a nod to Voyage Home. So maybe the shuttle was giving out by the end and they were able to just get into the Atmo and crash in the bay.
Let's see. Craig says the wormhole creation and the virus shutting off when the source program shut off are based on very questionable a wizard did it science tech. However, the narrative and characters were compelling enough that this did not really matter.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't think we needed to see them, struggle to get to Earth.
A wizard did it.
A wizard did it. Yes.
We always count on our good friend Craig to point out those inaccuracies and stretches of logic. Oh, yeah. However, as he also points out, ultimately it's how it's the resolution and the story that counts. And
yeah, it is.
You definitely overlook minor bugs in that. And like I said, we as Leo pointed out, I mean, we had a couple episodes here a few weeks back where it kind of seemed it worked then. It wouldn't have worked this week, where we had kind of like a pause in the action and just saw a certain aspect of what was going on one side or the other.
Right.
But this week we didn't need that type of exposition or unnecessary narrative.
I'm also glad that unlike at the end of Voyager, we got to see what happens when they got back.
Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah, that's one of the most frustrating aspects of a series finale ever. Is like,
I always felt like if they
home, they go, "What's next?"
Right.
It would have been. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they could have explored, even if they took half the season and be like, "Well, we've got Maquis, and we've got an X-Borg. Like, what is Starfleet going to say? Are they going to get their hackles up? Because probably some of them will.
Yeah.
And
they could easily have done half a season with what happened to the Voyager when it came out.
Yeah,
easily.
Well, one time, I'm sure you guys are aware of this. I mean, it would never have flown, then, maybe now, but the whole first season of Enterprise was supposed to be about them building the Enterprise and preparing for their mission.
That's kind of a hard sell.
That would be a hard sell. 26 episodes of that might have drawn a little thin, but
yeah. Yeah, but you could have done.
They did a great job though of just in 5 minutes of screen time in this season finale of Prodigy. We got some good information about what happened next and what's coming. The type of thing that's coming and so forth. It was very satisfying.
Yeah.
Keith also agrees with you, saying he's satisfied with not seeing their journey to Earth. I think that would have detracted from the emotions in the episode. I agree, Keith.
I agree. I mean, it's just sometimes you just have to hand wave things. It's
right.
Like they got back, and
Keith I think somewhere I read that someone considers Prodigy to be the sequel to Voyager.
Well, a lot of aspects certainly are, and
I mean,
it looks like it might continue to be so. I mean, that special purpose. I mean, it seems to me that Chris, you may have a good point, and maybe it's the Voyager A. We know they have to get there at some point to get the Voyager J in the 32nd century.
Right.
They got to help Chakotay and his remaining crew. I mean,
yeah.
What better crew and ship for that purpose?
Craig Lubin says a lot of the writers of and all of the actors of Voyage wanted to have the last season focus on what they did after they got back to Federation space. I think that would have been an interesting, that's thing to explore, because sometimes we've all seen movies and TV shows where it's like, it's a destination plot where we need to get someplace, and then they finally get there, and then it's over, and you're like, wait, what happened after that?
Right.
And very few times do we actually get to see any of that post script. Sometimes you get it in novels. In Star Trek novels, there have been a lot of Star Trek novels. There's a whole series about the Titan, about the voyages of Riker as the captain of the Titan.
Yeah, I have one of those books, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah.
And then, because, it was mentioned in the last Next Gen film. Why am I blanking on the name? Maybe because
Nemesis?
Nemesis, yes.
Yeah.
Which is a mixed bag. There's some interesting stuff in there and some other stuff that doesn't quite work. But, he was about to go off to the Titan, Captain of the Titan. It was very, and, since they didn't, I keep saying, Paramount Plus, this sort of streaming, this idea of a different way of distributing content didn't exist at that time. And I guess they weren't interested in doing a Riker-centric show, although I'm sure we all would have watched it.
I would have.
I still watch a Sulu-based Excelsior series. That's the kind of guy I am.
Listen, I'm still waiting for that Section 31 show with Michelle Yeoh. I
think number one's going to end up on that show. Personally, I think that's
maybe that's an interesting thought.
Felix Mulroy never really heard of her again after she never appeared after the original pilot.
Harry Kim never got promoted on screen, although I think he's appeared in other. I don't want to say, I don't know for sure that he's appeared in another show as like Lieutenant Kim. I think that the books he got promoted.
Right.
And there are a lot of Star Trek books.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I read a lot of those back in the day when it was just Kirk Spock stuff, TOS.
Right.
I can't say I've read any of the TNG novels.
Right.
Or Deep Space Nine or Voyager or what have you. But there are a lot of them. And, because fans want to see, what happened to their favorite characters, and novels are a hell of a lot cheaper than a TV show.
Sure.
Sure.
And you can decide for yourself if they're canonical until they're absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
But as far as series enders and things I'd heard the same thing, Leo, about Voyager. They wanted to have maybe somewhat of a story arc as far as what came next.
Yeah.
Which is maybe just well they did it, because now they can explore it in a different way, and I'm sure they will. And Voyager didn't really do story arcs like Deep Space Nine did at that point. In Enterprise, a lot of people said, well, the last two-parter, Terra Firma, and I can't remember the other part's name, but it took place on Earth and Mars with the xenophobiacs.
Yeah.
They consider that to be the real series finale, and
these
are the Voyages, just to be like a little coda.
Right.
So there's there I go with but there's a lot to be said for taking these things as you will. I didn't mind, for example, These Are the Voyages, but as a series finale, it was not a good choice.
No, I agree.
That could have been just a regular episode, out of continuity. It would have been more enjoyable, but they did what they did. But there's ultimately these things tend to work out in a different and often better way, and I think we can look forward to possibly getting some Voyager follow-up in season 2 of Prodigy that'll really
that would be cool. That would be really cool.
I do agree. I do think it's a spiritual successor to Voyager, and I'm glad that I mean, my real problem with Voyager, like I liked a lot of those characters, and the ship is cool, and the premise is cool. But the problem is that when it's like, they're coming attractions to be like, they're making a deal with some shady aliens. Will they get back to Earth? And I'm like, I know they won't. Please don't say that in the trailer because we know, we know for sure that's not going to happen because it's the second season and they're not going to end it. So that's the problem. It's sort of the Gilligan's Island thing where, they're like, oh, Gilligan, So
I mean, I think they had one of those episodes as early as like the 5th or 6th when they made contact with Romulan in the past.
Come on, little buddy.
Whack his head.
Yeah. Hey, do we want to rate this episode?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's start with Joe because I think Joe went last time. I think he went at the end. So let's start with Joe.
Okay. Well, I have a very definitive answer. I'm not gonna second guess myself, even if you guys rank differently, like I did before.
Okay.
I will say this: it's unofficial because it was last week, but it puts this week's into perspective. Last week for me, 4.5. First part of this,
right?
And just because a good setup to the season finale, and good little cliffhanger there for this week. So having said that, I'm going to give it a solid 5. I'm going to say, you know what, this season ender was perfect.
Just wait.
I can't
wait.
There just wasn't enough of quibbles, whatever, to take it below a perfect rating for me. So I give it a 5.
You gave it a 5. So you have a 5. Yes. Keith gives us, oh, wait a minute. That's not it. Keith gives us a 4.9.
Well, I guess you have to get one of those graphics, Chris. It has like a
I don't know about that. Let's see. It was almost perfect. It loses 0.10% for putting the kids on trial.
Yeah, Keith, I love you, buddy, but I'm not sure. I think that was a good part of the episode.
Yeah, I did too.
I'm going to have to disagree with Keith. If it is my turn.
Yes, it is your turn.
I'm going to give it a 5 because I think that, I would have liked this. I could have watched an hour's worth of stuff.
Right.
But I don't necessarily know whether it would have made it better. I think they hand waved the stuff that was appropriate to hand wave.
Yes.
And I think that they, they wrapped it up. They've set up the next season.
Right.
In a way that's, because sometimes a show ends, you're like, what are they going to do next? But I think they've definitely set up the next step of the show because I was kind of curious, where they were going to end up and where they were going to go. And I think they did it was an excellent job by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. Because...
All right. Well, I would agree. So I think despite Keith's 10% or 0.10%,
we're rounding up, Keith.
Right.
There you go.
That's
He's
funny.
on board with this.
Does everyone disagree with Keith Jacobs enough for a trial?
Put that man on trial.
For a tribunal.
Right. Well, you will have to put Keith on trial. Yes. All right. So that gives us 5 Vulcan salutes. Look at that.
And I don't think that's at all
a great way for them to end the season.
I think it's a well-deserved rating for sure.
At least by us to go out on a high like that. Because, of course, Trek Tonight is the definitive authority on all things Star Trek.
Yes, indeed.
If you win our approval,
our producer friend,
Yeah, if you win our approval, then you've made it.
Yes.
Forget Emmys. Don't yeah.
Golden Globes.
Let's see. Me and Jellicoe were hard asses. There you go. Well, that is true.
Okay.
You know what I've got to say? I can't think of a word I would less use to describe you, Keith, than hard ass.
No.
Really,
you are whatever the office.
You are one of the sweetest people I know.
Yes.
Hard ass does not go along with Keith.
No.
But, anywho, anything else, guys? Hey, so are we going to come back next week and review the whole season, or are we just going to leap ahead and go into our...
I wasn't going to bring it up on the air if that was something we wanted to decide privately, but to me, I think we could. But we can also do it right now. We got some
that's
time.
true because We only did a 40-minute episode so far. So
your guys' call. I mean, I follow your wisdom.
I would rather, if we were going to do a recap, I would rather like to have a little time to sort of go over and be able to pick up.
Actually, I never did see the episodes 2 through 10. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but it'll do me well to do.
Sure. Well, are we going to do that? That's a good question. Are we going to talk about the Nickelodeon season, which would be all 23 some episodes?
Yeah.
Or are we going to just do the current Paramount Plus season?
Well, they were both on Paramount Plus.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying the reason that this was all one season was because it was originally intended for Nickelodeon, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so they wanted a full-blown season, not one of these streaming short-ass seasons.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like season 1, season 2, but that's not really what it was supposed to be.
Well, that's how it plays because of what we are watching it.
So are we going to review its entirety or give a comment on that, or just what we've just seen?
Well, I think we should talk a little bit about the first half of this season.
Fair enough.
And we didn't cover it. We weren't Trek Tonight was not on the air at that time when it first dropped. But Joe, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on the beginning of it.
Yeah, and as I say, I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I want to just for my own personal enjoyment at some point to soak it all in.
Sure.
But I can definitely get up to speed enough to have a fun chat about the season as a whole. And I agree with Leo that, we are talking, forget logistics as far as when it aired and in what sections.
Right.
So far it's a complete story. And I think we want to, touch on the complete story.
Cool. Very good. Very good. And then following that, we are going to do a short series to carry us through until Star Trek Picard.
February, yes.
In February, we're going to do a short series. I think I've mentioned it on air before, about what were the most influential Star Trek episodes that influenced the franchise in general and greatly.
I still owe you some suggestions. Thanks for the reminder.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm going to put up a poll. It's actually good. If we're going to do a wrap up next week, then that gives us plenty of time for people to vote. I'm going to put up a poll. We're going to list probably 15 potential choices, and then we want to end up boil it down to 5, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So, and then what we'll do is then we will go through them, and each week we'll look at a new episode. And I think, what did we decide off camera, Leo? Are we just going to stick to TOS and say that this is?
I feel like I'm not sure, because I feel like that there are some TNG ones as well as Deep Space Nine that really were important to the franchise. But we'll figure it out. I think
all right, we'll let
TBD.
you know. It'll be on the website, and that will let you know. And if you have any comments and thoughts about that, feel free to let us know. Do you want to
make that part of the overall discussion with all of our friends?
Right. Yeah. Please, comments below. Let us know. Do you think we should just do TOS and how it influenced the entire franchise? Or should we look at just what were the most influential game changer episodes throughout the all of Star Trek? So let us know what you think.
It'll make for very lively discussion amongst us and with all the people that follow us.
It surely will. So, all right, guys. I have a house. I'm like Captain Kirk coming back from losing Mr. Spock. I have a house with all the children gone. All of my kids are at their grandparents, enjoying some holiday fun with them, so they are not here to dance or do anything at the end. But Barbara Pitcher will be very happy about that. But at any rate, so anything else, guys, before I roll the credits?
I think that's it.
Okay. I tried to get my wife to come in here in a short little Santa girl outfit and dance, but she wouldn't do it.
So.
I know. It is a family show, so Don't want to be too provocative.
Just get our original series, Star Trek, uniform instead.
Yes, yeah. Well, we could have done that, but we didn't. I didn't push for it. At any rate, but I still have my old Santa hat sitting over there.
Yeah.
And this will be the last I guess we'll have a show after New Year's.
Yes.
So hopefully everybody has a wonderful New Year's Eve, being safe. And if you're gonna have a wild time, make sure you're staying wherever you are. That's what we used to do, right, Leo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Used to go to somebody's apartment and get shit-faced and spend the night. That was a big thing. So, yeah.
I want to congratulate you, though, Chris, and I'll congratulate both of you. One of the running jokes, of course, is that ours is a family show. We're talking about a family show, although kids aren't generally watching us.
Right.
But Leo has worked so hard to refrain from using too many F-bombs. So congratulations, Leo, on that. And Chris, just now I want to congratulate you on the fact that you told us, you said we are a family show, and then 2 seconds later you're using the word shit-faced.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Happy fucking New Year's Eve.
Right. Anyway, are somebody coming in or going to bed? No. Okay. My grandson is here. But I think he's going off to bed. So, all right, guys. Like I said, have a happy New Year. Best wishes for the new year from all of us here at Trek Tonight. And we will be back after the festivities are done and people have cleaned up their apartments and washed up all the vomit. And then we will do our wrap up of.
If they haven't cleaned up their acts, I hope they've cleaned up their apartments at least.
Oh gosh, let's hope so.
At the very least, clean up the vomit.
At least clean up the vomit. At any rate, so we'll have hopefully everybody has a great New Year's, and we will see you next week.
Live long and prosper,
guys.
everyone.
So live long and prosper. So long, guys.